What is going on, everybody? What is going on? Good morning. Good morning. Thank you very much for being here. Appreciate you guys being a part of the show. Tuesday, February 17th, 8 a.m. Still a couple of days left before we start getting some NBA games back. Thursday? Thursday's first time we'll start getting some NBA games back. So whether you like it or not, you know, have to wait till Thursday. Friday, Lakers and the Clippers. So we got a couple days left. Appreciate you guys being a part of the show. Actually got a lot of good topics today. If I'm going to give the NBA a lot of credit here. They're still pumping out some good articles, pumping out some good topics, getting some good sound bites. So we got a fun show lined up for everybody today. As always, appreciate you guys being here. Please subscribe to the channel if you guys don't mind. Please consider being a member. Yes, I had somebody give 10 memberships for MVP members. So very, very nice of those individuals. I got a member show coming up this Friday, 10 a.m. We'll be doing a member show. It's I think that's going to become our time slot. Friday at 10 a.m. Friday at 10 a.m. we'll do another member show. Give everybody a quick rundown what we got going on for the show today. Do have a guest. So because we have a guest, we'll kind of go a little bit faster today. We'll take a look at some of the comments, and then we'll get the show started. Cheers to you, whatever you're drinking on this fine morning. I got a cup of coffee number 2. Feel good. I got the fuel that I need to make it happen today. All right, thanks for being here. Let me give everyone a quick idea of what we're doing for the show today. There's a lot of articles here where there's smoke, there's fire, that the Cavs are going to be a real threat to grabbing LeBron James in the summer. Listen, whatever happens. I've kind of staked my claim here that I'm okay with that chapter ending with LeBron, but there's a lot more details out there that are interesting. There's scenarios of how LeBron would become a Cav, and there's also a scenario of a sign and trade bringing Jarrett Allen to the Los Angeles Lakers. Yeah, I'm okay with that. Is there a world where the Lakers can get Jarrett Allen? A couple things would have to happen. But if LeBron wants to get paid, you better hope LeBron wants to get paid in Cleveland, because if he does, there's a way for the Lakers to get Jarrett Allen. My guest today is going to be Mark Medina, who's been obviously been a guest of this show for a number of years, does a phenomenal job covering the NBA. So he was at All-Star Weekend. I got a couple of questions I'm going to ask him, obviously, in regards to the Lakers, and then we'll also look at some questions around the NBA. Bleacher Report. Bleacher Report did a most overrated list in the NBA. Say DeAndre Ayton's got some real estate in that. He's got some real estate. DeAndre Ayton did a phenomenal job of making sure that he got a piece of that real estate. He's listed at number 6 on that list. We'll talk a little bit about DeAndre Ayton. Offseason expectations, something else that's happening around the Lakers right now. Dave McMenamin had an article this morning that went out on ESPN. Probably try to get Dave McMenamin on hopefully next week. But one of the things that, he's talking about is that there's a lot of expectations for the Lakers coming up this offseason. Kind of a weird thing. Here we are just got past the All-Star weekend. And a lot of the conversation about the Lakers is about the offseason. It's like, yeah, but they still got 28 games left. Listen, as we get a little bit closer to Friday's game against the Clippers, of course, people will continue to react to this season, but I thought that was an interesting article that there's so much attention already going towards the offseason. Kendrick Perkins basically telling everybody that we're going to miss LeBron if and when he leaves because he's the entire ecosystem. I don't agree with that, but Kendrick Perkins had something to say yesterday. We'll talk a little bit about that. And then I got a few things on the NBA news that we'll hit on, and we'll call it a day. I appreciate you guys being here. Thank you very much for being here. Let's get a few of the comments in. We'll read a few of the comments before we get started, and then I do want to talk about, like I said, Cavs being a real threat here. Okay, let's get a couple of these comments here. Let's see what people are saying. All right, let me find a couple here. If Bron is okay with taking 10 to 12 million a season and coming off the bench, I'm happy to see him back in the Lakers uniform. Yesterday I did a video. It was just on LeBron, and the idea and the concept was, well, what do you make? Do you want to see LeBron retire a Laker? Does it matter? Is it a big deal? Is it not a big deal? Whatever the case is. I obviously kind of did my own thing in regards to that. It's funny where people fall on the LeBron thing. There was actually more people that I felt like were more positive about LeBron than negative about LeBron in regards to that. So I thought that one was interesting. Bron signing Cavs for mid-level. Lakers ain't getting nothing. Yeah, that's going to be the question. The bigger question is going to be, how much money would he be trying to take in order to help the Cavs? How much money would he be leaving on the table to help the Cavs? Or why wouldn't he just do with the Lakers and just try to get the most amount of money possible and say, yeah, you got to get rid of Jarrett Allen, get rid of him? That obviously would benefit the Lakers. Okay. Let me see a couple more here, and then we're going to get started with our first topic, which I think people are already kind of starting to weave their way into that first topic. Either retiring at the end of the season or taking the vet minimum and a farewell tour next season with the Lakers is the only path to a dignified retirement. If he wants to get paid, go to the Cavs. There might be a world where he can. There might be a world where he can still take less money, take the vet minimum, and still go to the Cavs. Go to the Cavs and go from there. Okay, everybody's already on the first topic, so let's get into it. Thank you again for being here. Mark Medina coming on in about 10 minutes or so. There are a lot of articles right now being written about LeBron's future. And listen, I get it. Look, let me just emphasize this. Whether you love LeBron or you hate LeBron, the dude's going to get clicks and he's going to get talked about. So still, even 23 years into the NBA, he's still a very critical engine for the league. If he says something, if he doesn't say something, indirectly, directly, whatever the case is, people talk about LeBron. Now, for me, I think one of the main reasons why I enjoy talking about LeBron is, all right, well, what's the angle here? What's the conversation to be had? Here we are in the middle of the regular season, and what was it LeBron that was talking about during All-Star break? They got to have health. If they have health, maybe they can make a run. All right, I don't know how much I agree with that, but if LeBron says it, people are going to listen. Tim McMahon put something out, and I played it yesterday, and we had a conversation about it. And he said, I know what the ramping speculation is around the league this summer. There's going to be a reunion and potentially a retirement tour for the ages back home in Cleveland with the Cavaliers next year, and he's talking about LeBron. Here's the only thing. If LeBron ended up going to the Cavaliers, it's all good. I've said this before, ready to move on. Next chapter. Let's get Luka Doncic. Let's get Mark Walter in the group and figure out what the Lakers' future is going to be. Start building for the future. But the reason why this one means something is there's a good article that came in on Silver Screen and Roll and just kind of broke down everything. And it broke down, the question is going to be, what is LeBron asking for if he decides to go back to the Cavaliers? Is there a world that this can benefit the Lakers if he decided to go play for the Cavaliers? But there's a lot of indications here that Cavs are a real threat to potentially get LeBron James in the offseason and then, take LeBron with Donovan Mitchell and James Harden, Evan Mobley. And then the question is going to be who else is going to be on the roster, predicated on how much money LeBron's going to be asking for. And they broke down a couple different scenarios. I got it here, and I want to just kind of walk through this. He can either sign for the vet minimum of a contract for $3.9 million based on the amount of years he's been in the NBA. He can sign a taxpayer mid-level contract at $6.1 million. He could sign a non-taxpayer mid-level at $15.1 million or do a sign and trade. Okay, why could this positively or negatively affect the Lakers? LeBron has never, at least with the Los Angeles Lakers, and maybe there's circumstances to this, but I know LeBron's got a lot of criticism towards this, which he shouldn't. I mean, he's got every right to ask for every penny. He's worth every penny. I mean, he's really in an open market. LeBron's probably making $100 million a year. And that's just a business decision. That's how much revenue he'd be bringing back. That's how much attention he puts to your franchise. That's how much jersey sales, ticket sales, concessions, all that stuff. But the thing that's interesting here is LeBron in the past has never taken less money with the Lakers. How many different times we're like, well, if LeBron just takes less money, maybe they can go get this player. Maybe they can go get that player. You guys remember that? That's been a conversation that we've had about LeBron in the past for years with LeBron. I mean, that's been a conversation we've always had. And LeBron has basically never taken less money with the Lakers. This past offseason took another $52 million. So they didn't get a chance to go, well, if he takes less, they'll go get this guy, that guy. Frankly, that's not LeBron's, it's not his responsibility to run the finances for the Lakers. So I never, it would be nice of LeBron to do that, but I never fault LeBron for saying, no, I'm going to take my 52 mil. Why this is interesting is, would LeBron do something like that with the Cleveland Cavaliers in the offseason? This is the only thing I care about in this entire article. Is there a way for the Lakers to get Jarrett Allen? That's the only thing that I honestly care about. The only thing that I genuinely care about in this conversation is the less money LeBron asks for, the less chance the Lakers have for Jarrett Allen. The more money LeBron asks for, the better shot the Lakers have on a potential sign and trade to bring Jarrett Allen over to the Lakers. Now, Jarrett Allen, just to give everyone an idea, I think just signed an extension. I think his 3-year extension kicks in this year. So he's going to be, whether with the Cavs or another team, he's going to be under contract for the next 3 years. He's 27 years old. This season, 14 points a game, 8 rebounds a game. Kind of, you look at it from the type of player that the Lakers can use with a player like Luka Doncic. Jarrett Allen checks a lot of those boxes. He ain't perfect. I'm not telling you he's a top 5 center in the NBA, but what I'm telling you is he's a nice enough player that you could plug in. He's at a good enough age, and he's definitely a player that you feel like, hey, he can fit in with the Lakers. He can fit in with some of their future. And like I mentioned, from an age perspective. The thing that gets me most interested when we have the conversation of, does LeBron actually genuinely want to go back to the Cleveland Cavaliers, and is he willing to take less money to do so? The only thing that I really pay attention to, and this is, again, no knock on LeBron. I've staked my claim here. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. In a perfect world for me, LeBron's done at the end of this year with the Lakers. He ends up, and if he wants to go play for the Cleveland Cavaliers and tell everyone this is my farewell tour, this is it, he's got a shot at coming out of the Eastern Conference. What a cool way for him to finish off his career in his 24th season in the NBA. The question I have is, how can the Lakers take advantage of that? How can the Lakers benefit from that? Well, one way of benefiting is if LeBron's asking for, well, I got to get paid. I'm not just coming to the Cleveland Cavaliers and I'm taking a discount. No, if I come to the Cleveland Cavaliers, I want to make sure I'm taken care of and, put together the best roster that they can. Now, if this was all about just winning, has nothing to do other than winning, the less money he takes, the better it obviously would be for the Cleveland Cavaliers. The less chance of you getting a Jarrett Allen would be, because they don't need to trade Jarrett Allen. They're one of the few teams. I think I was reading in this article, the Cavs are above the second apron. They have the league's highest payroll this year, even though they shed some salary by making a couple of trades as they got into the trade deadline. A couple of the moves that they made, DeAndre Hunter, they traded. Lonzo Ball, no longer a part of the team as well. The point is, and kind of the biggest takeaway from this conversation about LeBron, we'll see what happens, but damn, there are a lot of conversations already out there in regards to LeBron. What's he going to do after this season? Is he going back to the Cleveland Cavaliers? And the less money he takes, if he did decide to go back to the Cavs and say, this is it, I'm going to call it, this is going to be my final stop, whether it's 1 year from now or whatever the case is, I'm not going to play for another franchise. The less money he takes, the less opportunity for the Lakers. The more money he would take, then maybe there's a legitimate chance to go try to get a player like Jarrett Allen in some type of a sign and trade, and the Lakers could then officially kind of turn that next chapter and put themselves in a position where they're really, really building for the future and obviously building around Luka. Okay, so that was one of the storylines these last couple of days, where it seems like that the Cavs would be a real threat to potentially go get LeBron in the offseason. We'll see what happens. Yes, we are in the middle of this season right now. You still got to play out the rest of this year. The Lakers, obviously, at this stage, you're 5th in the Western Conference. You still got 28 games left, plus a potential playoff run. But damn, there are a lot of articles, a lot of conversation, a lot of chatter, a lot of really respected journalists that are saying, no, there's a little, if there's smoke here, then there's fire, that this could be something. And the reason why I wanted to at least talk about Jarrett Allen because his name keeps getting floated in some of these conversations, and that's going to be up to LeBron to figure out, if he did go back to Cleveland, how much money he's looking for. The less money he takes, they got another asset. The more money he takes, maybe that's an asset for the Lakers to bring over. Okay, I did mention, and this is going to be a great transition to kind of start this conversation. Let's start the let's bring in our guest, which I did mention Mark Medina was going to be joining us today. So let's get Mark Medina in the mix here. Mark, good morning, my friend. Well, what's going on? Thank you for being here.
Alan, good morning. What's going on? The NBA season, it never stops. We had an eventful All-Star weekend that brought a lot of good and bad commentary about the event. And now it's going to be a sprint to the finish with how things play out with the Lakers and everything else.
First off, let me compliment the background. I like what you got going on there.
I needed to change it. It was overdue.
It's a very nice basketball themed, NBA themed. I like it. So that fits well with what your day to day is.
Yeah, a lot of Lakers memorabilia in the back. A lot of things that I contributed to. So I had to put on full display. How about this? Not to do a flex, but I got to do it. Proud display of Klay Thompson's Anta shoes back in the day. It had a newspaper themed, and if you look at the fine print, I got my name on there.
Is that right?
Yeah.
You know what? I think I saw. Was Klay currently rocking those the print? Is that the one you're talking about? Because I thought I heard them say in a broadcast that I don't know where I saw this. I'm trying to think here, but recently in a broadcast they were talking about his shoes, or maybe they were just pointing out some of like the better shoes they've seen recently. And I think that was Klay had like some kind of article that was on the. Is that the one you're referring to?
Well, that is something that he just did, but these shoes behind me, these are completely different. This is when I was on the Warriors beat with Bay Area News Group, and at that time, Klay had a partnership with Bay Area News Group because of his, talk about wanting to read the newspaper before the game. It relaxes his mind. He likes holding the paper. So he made these Anta-themed shoes with some of our different newspaper clippings. So one of my bylines made the cut.
There you go. That's awesome. Very, very cool. Well, I hope you enjoyed obviously All-Star Weekend. I got a couple questions about the All-Star Weekend. We could hit on a lot of NBA stuff just because I was just having this conversation. What do you make of, here we are, still 28 games left to go in the season for the Lakers, and there are a lot of conversations. Not that this is shocking. It's LeBron. LeBron's going to get you clicks. LeBron's obviously always he's the gasoline to the NBA engine, or at least he's been for a number of years. What do you make of all the chatter about what he plans to do after the season? That just the fact that this is such a conversation right now, and some of the chatter, Tim McMahon of ESPN saying that, oh no, there's real chatter about him potentially doing a retirement tour in Cleveland. Are you surprised how much of a conversation there is about LeBron for next season, or is this just kind of come with the territory?
Not surprised at all. This is what happens with LeBron James all the time. There's a lot of fascination, both in the present and future. And I think that why there's all this conversation on what's next is LeBron himself has kept reiterating that he doesn't know what's next. During his All-Star availability before Sunday's game, he was understandably asked if he has any clarity on when he's going to retire and what his future looks like. And he said he has no idea. I mean, he was asked directly, like, what are his goals beyond dabbing into ownership ventures with for an NBA franchise. And he said, I just want to live. I mean, that is very open-ended as it can get. And so since we know that LeBron James has this final year, under contract with the Lakers, literally all options are on the table here.
Mark, I just want to live too. You know what I mean? I'm going to take that quote anytime I can use it. I'm going to take that quote. I'm going to run with it. Listen, this is just an opinion, just your thoughts. He's in his 23rd year in the NBA. He's still putting up great numbers. Is he the same player as he was when he was winning an NBA championship for the Cavs? No, of course he's not. Is he the same player as he was in 2020 when he was winning an NBA championship with the Lakers? Of course he's not. But he's still very, very productive. He still finds ways, and there's moments in the game where you're like, my God, this guy looks like he's, instead of 41, he looks like he's 31. Um, if you had to make your own prediction, do you think he's like, I guess of these scenarios, he's a Laker next season, he retires next season, or he's playing with another team next season? Which one would you think is most likely?
Yeah, my prediction is that he's playing for one more season, and it's with the Cleveland Cavaliers
Mm,
to be able to join a team that could be in the running to win an NBA championship. He returns back to the franchise that drafted him and the hometown connections, and he gets that retirement tour. I mean, that basically checks every single bucket
mm,
here. But I think, no one really knows, obviously. So what I'm saying is just coming from my own self, using logic from a basketball and personal standpoint. But I think what makes this conversation really tough is there's just a lot of gray areas. As you mentioned, Alan, he's not the same player as he was in his prime, but he's playing well enough to warrant being in the All-Star game as a reserve. He's on a Lakers team that isn't a favored team to win an NBA championship, but they're a playoff team. They're not a lottery team. And during his availability, he's talking about the obvious importance of having good health because there's been overlapping injuries this season to himself, Luka Doncic, Austin Reaves, Rui Hachimura. You go down the line. I asked him, hypothetically, if you all are able to be consistently healthy the second half of this season, what does he think the team can accomplish? And he says he doesn't know because he mentioned the new acquisitions last offseason, DeAndre Ayton, Marcus Smart, Jake LaRavia. They just got Luke Kennard, which addresses some of their 3-point deficiencies. But with all these balls juggling in the air, he expressed uncertainty how this plays out, and I think that trickles down to the uncertainty on what his future holds. If it was a very simple conversation of he is the guy on the Lakers, he's still playing as he was in his prime and they're championship contenders, it's an easy answer. He keeps prolonging his career in a Lakers uniform. On the flip side, if he was going through what Kobe Bryant went through a decade ago, where he's just fighting through season-ending injuries the last few years of his career, he's on a lottery team. I think he has full clarity. You know what? It's time to pack it up,
mm.
start playing ahead for post basketball. He's in the ultimate in between of all those two extreme scenarios, hence a lot of indecisiveness on what is in store. But again, my prediction when you connect all these dots, it only makes sense that he goes back to Cleveland, has another chance to win a title with a pretty good team, assuming he's willing to take some relative discount and supplement his role, and then get that farewell tour in Cleveland.
I thought one of the best quotes that we got from Bron over the weekend was one of your questions. And when he said, we played some of our best basketball this season, we've looked really good. On the other side, when we've been terrible, we look disgusting. And that there, by the way, I think that is a great description from LeBron. There's some nights you might walk away watching Lakers basketball and be like, hey, that looked pretty good. And there's other nights you're out and you're like, this is a completely different team. I don't know how much. Yesterday I was talking about how I don't think health is everything for the Lakers. I think it's, of course, a major factor. I think the real question is just, do they have enough talent? Does the team make sense? Do the pieces fit? How will Luka, LeBron, and AR, when they're at their best, what does that look like together? I think they can be healthy and still not get past the second round or even potentially the first round just based on who that matchup is. What is your take on what you've seen so far this season? How much of it do you think is health, and how much just from what you've observed do you think they're able to kind of put themselves in that conversation as being a top 4 team in the Western Conference?
Yeah, I mean, you can't discount health, certainly as it pertains to their main three with LeBron, Luka, and Austin. They've only played 10 games together. If they have more time together, they can iron out chemistry. But I think you hit on a few good notes here. First, obviously, every team needs to be healthy, but this idea that the Lakers could ever accomplish this utopia of having a full roster through the rest of the season, I think is fool's gold. They have to almost anticipate that this is the theme of this year because LeBron's 41 in his 23rd season. They had, some sensitive injuries with Luka's hamstring, Austin Reaves' calf. Those are injuries that you're always managing through a season. But I think to your larger point, it's also a talent issue. Whether they've had most of their guys available or not, they're not a great defensive team. And that's not going to change because the trade deadline passed and the only needs that they met was to improve their 3-point shooting. And what this means is what you're talking about with LeBron's quote and saying that, sometimes they look really great and sometimes they look terrible or disgusting. And the numbers don't lie. They've been 13-0 in those clutch games that were decided in the final 5 minutes. But they've also lost 13 games by double digits. They haven't really done well against playoff type contending teams. They're 11-13 against teams that have above a 500 record. They're good against bad teams. They're 22-8, but you're supposed to win those games. So I think the Lakers are that ultimate good but not great team. And what does that mean? You always have a puncher's chance. I think that they can get to the playoffs without being in the play-in tournament. They could get in the playoffs with home court advantage to open the first round. But I think that's as good as it gets. And what that means is that they can lose in the first round. Maybe they get to the second, but then they're going to run into one of the Western Conference juggernauts, and then season's over.
To get out of that first round, and by the way, I'm with you, and I think it's more likely that they end up probably in that 4 through 6 range than 3 or 7. And either in the play-in tournament or top 3 in the Western Conference. See what happens. I mean, obviously, all these games, everybody's so close to each other, and some teams might be doing. Denver's a great example where I think when we're talking about injuries, you need health. Denver is like the perfect definition. I think if they're all healthy, Denver's got a really good team, and you could see that they would have a much higher ceiling, in my opinion, than the Lakers would. But health is everything, so we'll see what happens. How important do you think home court is in that first round for them? I feel like if they're to get out of that first round, I know a lot's going to also depend on the matchup, but it feels like. And by the way, I can't even apply this because last year they had home court and they were out in the first round. So but it just feels like to me, if they're to make any noise and get out of that first round and make things a little bit interesting and then maybe build a little bit of momentum, it feels like home court should be a priority. Do you agree with that? Or do you think that doesn't matter as much because of some of the stars that they have and some of these vets that have been in the league for so many years?
Yeah, it's obviously great to have it, but I think it's just a topping on a Sunday. I think the bigger things, it goes down to the conventional wisdom for all NBA seasons. Starts with health. I think it's talent, chemistry, momentum. I think when you're weighing the other things, I think it's vastly more important for the Lakers at least to avoid the play-in tournament because you eliminate the possibility for chance of meeting a team that just has a hot shooting night, number one, and number two.
You get Spurs or Thunder in the first round too, by the way.
Yeah, well, that too. You're staying up playing the Thunder or the Spurs, and I just don't see the Lakers matching up well with either team. And then I think the third thing is just it's one or two added games that just weighs on a 41-year-old LeBron James. And you need to be as recharged as reasonably can be entering the postseason. So yeah, home court advantage would be great for the Lakers in the first round, but I think it ranks like a distant 5th, 6th beyond the other variables I mentioned: health, chemistry, talent, momentum, and then avoiding the play-in. So yeah, I guess it would rank 6 out of all these things.
Mark, I'm curious to get your opinion on this because I don't know. For me, maybe it's a little bit different because I'm doing the show, every day, Monday through Friday. I'm reacting right after games as well. There is a lot of, I get a lot of instant feedback from fans, probably when they're most emotional. What's your pulse for how fans feel about Austin Reaves? Because I think I get more of, and if you maybe asked me this a year ago, I wouldn't think this would be the case, but I think there are a lot of Laker fans that question whether Reaves should be a part of the future. I think there's a lot of Laker fans that question the Luka Doncic, Austin Reaves, having that as your backcourt. And by the way, a lot of this also has to do with Reaves is about to get paid. So whatever he was playing at a discount, he's going to become market rate in the next, couple of months, and he's certainly going to get paid. I'm curious what your interaction, when people talk, Laker fans, or even just the general out there, general NBA fans, whatever the case is, when they talk about Reaves, what's what's typically the conversation that comes up, and is it more positive or negative with the Lakers?
I think it's fairly mixed. I think the positive is that he is a competitor. His chemistry with Luka Doncic is really good. There's no issue of how do they coexist well together. They get along well personally and X's and O's wise. And I think that we've seen that he can play at an all-star caliber level offensively. I think the other problems are defensively. Yes, he's improved effort, team defense, all those things, but he's not a great defender. But I think the bigger thing is just how the Lakers use their resources so they have the right roster around Luka Doncic and to a lesser extent Austin Reaves. And so I think when you're looking at the offensive chemistry and the individual talent that Luka and Austin have, you don't want to take that for granted. That is a very unique need that the Lakers have in their back pocket. And so I think because of that, the Lakers have it in the mind. They're going to commit to Austin Reaves moving forward. But it goes without saying, this offseason, they have to have the right roster construction around their main pillar. So they're a good defensive team. So what does this mean? I think Austin Reaves will be with the Lakers long term, but it's not like he's a sacred cow and he's untouchable in anything. If there's any of these crazy scenarios where a superstar player is suddenly available, like a Giannis Antetokounmpo,
Sure.
and it gives them an ability to have a better defensively constructed roster, I think outside of keeping Luka, the Lakers should be open toward anything. But you also shouldn't take for granted that they do have a special thing going with their offensive chemistry in their backcourt. So much that I think from a numbers standpoint, they're up there as far as best backcourt scoring duos in the NBA.
Do you think this is a critical? I was talking about late last week. We were talking about how Austin Reaves has done so far in the playoffs, and I think there was it left a bad taste in people's mouth. They needed him to be better than he was last playoff run. Is this? Do you think it's a critical playoff run for him? Not that it's going to completely change how much money he's going to make every single year, any of that, but if you're a player that was basically an injury away from being an all-star this year, which he was. I think he would have been an all-star if he doesn't get injured. He was playing at such an unbelievable rate. Is this an important playoff run, do you think, for Austin Reaves? If he has a disappointing playoff run, does it say something? And if he has a great playoff run, does it just kind of squash any rumors or conversation about what his value is for the Lakers, what his value is in the NBA?
Yeah, I think what this means for Austin Reeves' future, I don't think it's going to solely define what his standing is with the Lakers, but I think it provides incredible clarity on the positives, negatives with him. And when you're looking at some of his playoff shortcomings last season, previous years, some of it had to do with the fact that it looked like he was wearing down, he's hitting a wall, kind of the momentum and growth is catching up to him because now teams are paying more attention to him. But when you're looking at this season, JJ Redick has stressed time and time again to Austin Reaves is he's no longer that undrafted overachieving guy that the Lakers have, and anything they get is a bonus. Like, they are looking at him as their third best player. And to your point, before he had his injury, he was considered someone that could seriously make an all-star team as a reserve. And so I think if there is a silver lining with this injury, this could improve his odds of not wearing down in the playoffs and having better durability. But I know I'm talking both sides out of my mouth here, but we don't fully know how long it's going to take for him to be further removed from this calf injury. He's technically still on a minute restriction, and he's having this bench role. So there's a lot of gray area with Austin Reaves. But I think the one thing I want to stress is I don't think that how he plays in the playoffs is going to be the number one factor that determines what things look like in the future. But I think it provides a hell of a lot of clarity on both the pros, cons, or somewhere in between on what it means for the Lakers to be committed to him.
Mark, I think it's so easy to talk about, the top three players for the Lakers. And we spend a lot of time, of course, talking about LeBron and Luka and Austin Reaves. really for any team out there that is going to compete or are going to win a couple rounds in the playoffs, a lot of times it might just come down to the other guys, right? The other players, and how are you 7, 8 guys deep? Can you depend on more guys than just your stars? Of course, your stars got to deliver. DeAndre Ayton, there was an article that came out. I don't know if it came out last night, maybe last night. Bleacher Report did most overrated players in the NBA. They did a top 10 list. I'm assuming here you probably don't want to be on this list. DeAndre Ayton was number 6. My question to you is, there's a reason why the Blazers are paying Ayton nearly $27 million this season for him to play somewhere else. You know, and they have their own personal reasons. Not every franchise is created equal. Maybe it's, you know, obviously paying more attention to wanting to develop young players, whatever the case is. Are you surprised with how Ayton has performed this season? Would you describe it as underperforming? Would you say, no, this is what did you think you were getting when you were getting DeAndre Ayton? You weren't getting a top 5 center in the NBA. What have you made of DeAndre Ayton's season this year? How much of it to you is a surprise, and how much of it to you is kind of on par with what you expected?
Yeah, it's on par with what I expected. This is the DeAndre Ayton experience. Sometimes he intrigues you, impresses you, inspires you, and then other times he leaves you very disappointed and wanting more. And I think some of the expectations have been tempered with the Lakers because they have Luka Doncic, LeBron James. They got him on such a relative discount that the angst of him achieving up to his capability or not doesn't come with the same angst as if you are paying him a max contract.
Sure.
But I don't think that that should excuse him because this is his reclamation year. This is his year to show that he's about the right things. He doesn't care about his numbers. All he cares about winning. And, you know, when JJ Redick was, you know, conceding the fact that DA is getting frustrated because he's not as involved in the offense, he's not getting enough touches. Like, that's ridiculous. This idea that, oh, you know what, the Lakers need to feed him the ball better. I mean, he's not Shaq in the early 2000s. He is now a role player. And so he knew what he was signing up for, that this team revolves around Luka, Austin, and LeBron. And I know that it's only human nature for any player, star or role player, that when you're involved with the offense, you're touching the ball, you're scoring, you're more inclined to try harder on defense. But because of the history that DeAndre Ayton has gone through, he should have been viewing any scoring opportunities as a great bonus and just view himself as, I'm going to be as best of a defensive stopper as I reasonably can be and do intangibles. And that's all that matters. So, yeah, I'm disappointed but not surprised that there is some of that conversation out there that his effort level is sometimes hinged on that. But at the same time, I think from the Lakers' point of view, they should have known, and I think they do know what to expect. And I think that it doesn't rationalize it, but it's a lot much different when they got him on a discount deal. But I think where there is reasonable angst is the Lakers, they can't really absorb that because even though they have LeBron, Luka, Austin, they've had injury issues, as we know. They're not a defensive elite team. So they really need him to be at his best so that they have a puncher's chance.
Mark, I got one more question in regards to the Lakers. I'm going to jump around the NBA for a couple questions as well, and I appreciate the time as always. Final one on the Lakers. They don't make any significant moves at the trade deadline. They get Luke Kennard, give up a second rounder and Gabe Vincent. They hold on to their first rounder. I still don't understand what Rob Pelinka was talking about with it's aggressive to not make a move. I didn't understand the comp there, but we'll take that for what it is. I had to read it like 2 or 3 times. I'm like, Rob, I don't know what you're talking about here, but all right, if that makes you feel good. What do you make of the Lakers' future? Because I actually think I thought it was responsible to say, if we don't see something at the trade deadline that's going to help us for years to come, let's not throw that first round pick. Let's have 3 first rounders in the summer. I know there's questions about what LeBron's going to do and so forth, but the biggest offseason move for the Lakers was they do have new ownership that has incredible resources. As you look at the Lakers' future, what do you envision as not just this offseason, but just the next couple of years? Could the Lakers, just based off of having Mark Walter, his group, potentially improving from a front office perspective and putting more resources towards there. Just your overall take on the Lakers here over the next 1, 3, 5 years or so.
Yeah, well, they have an incredible opportunity because it's the Lakers. They have cap space, they have new ownership that I think you're going to feel that impact when it comes to resources in the facility, the analytics staff, training staff. I think the Lakers have always been fine with spending on star players and being a destination place. But I think that the other thing is that the Laker fans understandably are frustrated because they've gone through these last few years where they think the Lakers are going to be aggressive in the offseason. And then, afterwards saying, hey, it's about being more opportunistic for the trade deadline. Then when the trade deadline happens, it's about being more opportunistic during the offseason.
Or they were aggressive without making a move. You get it? I mean, there's.
And I think Rob's main point is he's making the calls. He's looking at scenarios, but he determined it wasn't good. But yeah, from a PR language standpoint, that I don't think that lands well with anyone because it's about what did you do, what didn't you do? Fans and I think the league itself, the team, they care about the results, not the process. So yeah, what this means for the future with the Lakers, I think. Clearly I saw Dave McMenamin's story this morning about, the Lakers are certainly open for having LeBron James come back. But I think there's just a lot of qualifiers with that I'm not sure that LeBron would even be up for that. So if he comes back, relative discount, he is signing up for a reduced role, great. But they're also prepared for the scenario that this is LeBron's final year. They can be a player and the Giannis Antetokounmpo sweepstakes. They'll likely keep Austin Reaves back. So they have a really good opportunity to now become a contender. And it starts with the fact that they got Luka Doncic last year. So he is their, franchise player moving forward. But they can't be caught. They're always aggressive, as Rob Pelinka has said, but they can't be caught with missing opportunities and just hoping that the next trade deadline or the next offseason they can take advantage of it because these opportunities are very fleeting for any team. And you can't ever assume that a huge deal will fall into your lap like the Luka Doncic trade did for the Lakers. So they gotta be willing to think short term. It's about championships, but also be great talent evaluators. And I think that was one of the lessons learned from, the Russell Westbrook trade, that even though he's a great player, how would it affect their roster depth, their flexibility, their chemistry? But I think to some degree that has also led to some paralysis by analysis in future years. But there's no easy answers here because I think the lessons learned with LeBron James, Anthony Davis, and now that Anthony Davis is gone and they have Luka, is that this idea of having a third star sounds great in theory, but it's better to have roster depth, positional needs. But if you're going to go down roster depth, you got to address your roster deficiencies. And when you're looking at this past year, they made respectable moves that were available because of, a depressed job market for DeAndre Ayton. Marcus Smart is a respectable player, but it didn't move the needle dramatically where, they would be able to be a consistent three-point shooting team as well as a respectable defensive team.
Yeah, and I think this is, for the future for the Lakers, whatever that looks like, there's a bar right now set by two teams that it doesn't feel like they're going anywhere in the Western Conference for years to come. The Thunder are not in this window where it's like, hey, this is they got 1 or 2 years left and they're going to get out of the way. Or the San Antonio Spurs, I didn't know they were going to be this good this year. I thought they were just going to be a playoff team. And now it looks like, hey, they can actually come out of the Western Conference. So I think as you look at the future for the Lakers, the bar has been set. And if you're trying to hang with the Minnesotas and the Phoenixes and the Houston Rockets of the world, maybe the Rockets get a little bit better. All that means is you're probably out in the first round or second round at the latest. The bar that you're trying to set, if you're trying to compete for an NBA championship, you got to get through what's arguably the two best teams in the league in the Spurs and the Oklahoma City Thunder. They're both in the Western Conference, so it's going to be interesting to see that. Final one I got for you, Mark, and I know this one's been getting a lot of buzz, but how important is it going to be for the NBA to figure out what to do with teams that are trying to position themselves for a draft pick? Because it's been a conversation now for the last couple of weeks. The NBA tried to kind of, put their hand down and say, all right, here's a $500,000 fine to the Utah Jazz, $100,000 fine to the Indiana Pacers. Just how bad is it for the sport to have this many teams saying, by the way, I've said this before and I'll say it again. I don't blame any team who's trying to position themselves for a draft pick. This is the way the league is built right now, that you're incentivized in a sense to lose. Maybe it's not that big of a difference from a percentage standpoint, but teams are just going to, they have no incentive to win. Let's put it that way. How critical is this that they fix this? And how confident are you that we're not sitting here a year or 2 years from now and this is still a conversation?
Well, it's critical, but it's not as bad as it once was. And I think part of that has to do with the play-in tournament. There's been a lot more regular season, purpose for teams that are on those fringes because of the possibility of making the play-in tournament. But when you're looking at the standings here, there's almost a third of the league that don't have a shot to be in the play-in tournament, and several of those teams that have already been tanking. And so I think why this already hit the league pretty hard here is that this kind of behavior happened before the All-Star break as opposed to the end of the month. But I will say this, it's not just the teams that were fined, the Utah Jazz, Indiana Pacers, but there are some people around the league that think that this reeked of the NBA overly course correcting and using them as an example to make it look like they're really addressing the problem. And the reason I say that is, Adam Silver, in his statement when the league fined the Utah Jazz for sitting Lauri Markkanen and Jaren Jackson Jr. in the entire fourth quarter of a recent game, and the Indiana Pacers for sitting Pascal Siakam in a recent game, even when they considered that they were healthy. He was mentioning overt behavior. And so I think the interpretation of that was the NBA is actually okay with tanking as long as you're more subtle about it. And so I think because of that, there is skepticism. Will they actually address this? Or is this just something that, as long as you're not rubbing in the league's face, they'll look the other way. So it is a problem, but I think there was also a little bit of a, kind of helicopter parenting, virtue signaling with it as well.
Well, it got momentum, so I don't know if that's the best look for the NBA, but it definitely got momentum. Mark, really good stuff, brother. I appreciate it. I love your opinion on obviously everything going on around the league. Thank you for the insight, and I appreciate you joining the show.
Alan, appreciate you as always. It's going to be a fun rest of the season.
Yes, sir. All right, we'll have you on as we get closer to the playoffs, all right?
Sounds like a plan.
All right, that is Mark Medina right there. Great stuff. Good stuff from Mark. Actually, I gotta be honest with you. Just all those topics. I love hitting on so many of those different, especially kind of going a little bit closer towards the NBA as well, and the tanking and everything else that's associated with it. But good stuff from Mark Medina. So shout out to Mark for being a part of the show, and great stuff from him. Okay, I know we got a lot of comments we got to hit on. Oh, people, I was looking at some of the comments here with DeAndre Ayton and the overrated list. People were losing it. They were also a lot of support for Austin Reaves when I was bringing up Austin Reaves, so I don't typically get that all the time. So we got a lot of comments here that we can look at. Before we do so, let's give some love to some of our partners here, some of those that are helping keeping this engine going. Shout out to Brad Wallace and the Wallace firm. Hopefully you never need an injury attorney. Hopefully you never need Brad Wallace and the Wallace firm. But if you do, or you're just looking for some legal advice and you just want to connect with somebody that's the best in the business, go to wallacewins.com/Sliwa. So if you go to that website, it's a great website to go to, that URL. You get an absolutely free consultation, get all the information that you're looking for. Someone from the Wallace firm is going to reach out to you and somebody's going to help you. So again, I've had people hit me up on Instagram. I've had people reach out directly to Brad Wallace, people that are listeners of this channel and this show. I appreciate you guys doing that. So thank you very much for doing that. Very, very much appreciated that you're supporting our partners. But at the end of the day, it's a serious matter. And if you need Brad Wallace and the Wallace firm, they can help. wallacewins.com/Sliwa. The best injury attorneys in the state of California. They can help anybody in the state of California. And if you want to reach out to me directly, I'm happy to point you in the right direction and introduce you to Brad Wallace and the Wallace firm. Okay, let's keep rolling here. So, let me take some time. I'm gonna look at some of the comments here. Sometimes I get, especially when I have a guest on, I don't look as many of the comments just because I'm focused on the conversation. But let me look at a few of the comments here, and then we'll go from there. Okay, here's one. Kyrie and Reaves do not belong in the same sentence if talking about comparisons. Yeah, I'm not a fan of that comparison either. I'm not a fan of when people say, oh, well, you got Jalen Brunson and Luka were able to do it. Kyrie Irving and Luka were able to get to the NBA Finals. I think the bigger question is, well, what did the rest of the team look like? And listen, there's levels to it. Kyrie Irving and Austin Reaves are not on the same level. Jalen Brunson is one of the best point guards in the entire NBA. It's not on the same level, but I get what people are talking about conceptually. But I think the bigger issue when talking about Kyrie and Luka or Jalen Brunson and Luka, they actually had a team that made sense. They had bigs. They had guys that can stretch the floor. They had shooters. They had wings. They had defenders. They had lob threats. They had all these other things that made that backcourt the best version of that backcourt. Lakers obviously don't have that right now with Luka and Austin Reaves. And Austin Reaves is also not one of those players. He's not. He's not. Austin Reaves is a really, really nice player. He ain't Kyrie, and he's not Jalen Brunson. So just something to keep in mind in regards to that. Let's get another one here. The reality is that the Lakers need a viable big and a legit 3-and-D player. I would say 2 3-and-D players. Make that happen, and we compete. I can't blame DA for being him. This was the conversation. Let me go back to it because I think let me spend a few minutes on this. And listen, I know it's kind of not the greatest list that you want to be a part of, but Bleacher Report did a list here ranking the most overrated players in the NBA. Let me go on the list. I'm going to go 10 down to 1 real quick, and I'll kind of pump through this, and we'll talk Ayton for a quick second. D'Angelo Russell, number 10. D'Lo, number 10? D'Lo should be lower on that list if that's my opinion. D'Angelo Russell, number 10. Kuzma, number 9. How about this? A couple old former Lakers making this list. Jaren Jackson Jr., number 8. That's interesting there. I disagree with Jaren Jackson Jr. Being one of the more overrated players. Maybe the Memphis Grizzlies saw something, got out of that mix as quick as they can. Obviously, he's with the Utah Jazz now. Tyler Herro at number 7. Ayton at number 6. It's a tough one with Ayton. Because I sit here with DeAndre Ayton, and I had some expectations for Ayton. I liked asking the question for Mark Medina. I'm like, Mark, is Ayton doing what you thought he was going to be doing, or did you expect more? And I'm like, Mark, please tell me that you expected more. He's like, no, that's exactly what I thought. I'm like, shit. Then I'm the only one expecting more. I thought Ayton would be better. Maybe there was this desperation thinking Ayton has the potential of being better. He's got a chance to really work his way into another contract with another team if he has a good season. The Lakers are desperate for a productive center. They're going to have Luka and Austin Reaves and LeBron. I was putting all these pieces together, and I'm like, if there's a place Ayton's he's going to succeed in, he's going to excel in, it's got to be the Lakers, right? Well, that has not been the case. He's been wildly inconsistent. You can't depend on him. Unfortunately, there's times where the Lakers are better when he's not on the floor, and then he'll occasionally have a game where he plays really well. But those games of him playing well are getting less and less. As the season has progressed, his production and his depending on him, I think, has gone down. So DeAndre Ayton at number 6. Get a couple more in here. Zion at number 5. Kristaps Porzingis at number 4. Zach LaVine at number 3. Most overrated list. AD at number 2. How do I argue with that one? I can't. Who's number 1? Draymond Green at number 1. Interesting. Well, you could overrate Draymond Green as much as you want, but at least that guy's got some jewelry. At least that guy can sit back and say, well, I got 4 chips. But I thought, obviously, that list was interesting, and that plays on some of this others. Ayton has been disappointed as a number 1 pick. I'd say it's pretty fair to say he's a bust. Man, Ayton does not command the back line ever. It's annoying. Let's see what else we have here. Here's one. I wish the NBA didn't have a salary. I disagree with that. I think the NBA, what you want to try to do if you want a competitive league, let teams and franchises stand out because their businesses run well. They don't have to stand out specifically just because, obviously because somebody's got a deeper pocket. I think I like the structure of the NBA. I like the structure of the NFL. You're going to find out who are the best organizations, and it doesn't all have to be based on how much money they make. That's not, to me, that's not a good indication of an organization. A good indication of an organization is, damn, the Oklahoma City Thunder are doing what? The Knicks all of a sudden put together a good front office. Now all of a sudden they look a lot better. Listen, the Lakers are going to be ran very well, I think, moving forward, and it's not going to be just because of a salary cap. So I'm okay with the structure of the NBA. I just think, obviously for the Lakers, they got some work to do in their front office. And by the way, they're going to have the ability to do anything they want in their front office. I mean, typically what people say if you're running a business, it starts at the top. Okay, clean up the top, and it will trickle its way down, and then you'll see the product that's on the floor that will represent how good your front office is. And I think the Lakers are going to be heading in that direction. It might take them a year or two, but I think they'll head in that direction. All right, by the way, I love this. I've told you guys this before. Listen, I try to get the right guests on. Hopefully, you guys appreciate the guest as well. Got a couple here that's complimenting Mark Medina. So I love to see that. So thank you for the compliments there. Not for me, but for Mark. But I'm glad that you guys liked that Mark Medina was on. All right, let's keep rolling here. I still got a few more topics, and then we got NBA stories that we're going to get into. Let me just do this one real quick. Offseason expectations. Can I just say this? There was an article that came out, and Mark Medina mentioned it as well. See if I can find this here real quick. Dave McMenamin put out an article this morning, and it says why the Lakers' quiet trade deadline could make for an explosive offseason. Listen, I don't have to get into all the details of this, but there's one thing that I'm going to say that I really do believe. The expectations for this offseason are just, they keep going this way. And before the trade deadline, you were still saying to yourself, let me break this down for you. What the Lakers have done over the last year or so is the flexibility, keep your draft picks. Maybe they're going to make a run at Giannis, blah, 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 all this chatter and all this conversation. Their books are going to be open. They're going to be wide open this upcoming season. And then they went out and didn't make any trades at the trade deadline. The expectations just keeps getting higher and higher for the Lakers in regards to what you expect them to do this upcoming offseason. And then you got new ownership coming in. This article talks about, and I love the title of it, that the fact that it was a quiet trade deadline could make for an explosive offseason. I think at this point, everybody's just expecting for the Lakers to freaking come out guns blazing this summer. Yes, you still got these 28 games left. Yes, you still got this playoff run. But I think we all kind of have an idea of what the ceiling may be for the Lakers. But this offseason, doesn't it feel like if the Lakers don't come out, like I said, guns blazing, you'd be shocked, you'd be surprised. Good. Like I mentioned, a really good article from Dave McMenamin, and we'll see what happens in regards to LeBron. I started the show saying the Cavs can be a real threat. Maybe there is a world that LeBron comes back to the Lakers, but he had in this article that some unrestricted free agents. He talked about some players that would be restricted free agents, but you're seeing names out there: Peyton Watson, Tari Eason. We've heard those names before. Andrew Wiggins, Tobias Harris, Quentin Grimes, Dean Wade. These are not all, these huge profile names, but they can definitely help. You got the Giannis name that's going to continue to come up until he gets traded or he doesn't get traded or becomes a Laker or he's never a Laker. That name's always going to be there. I think everybody's just expecting some real some fireworks in the offseason for the Lakers. I think that's kind of what has been you're kind of trained to think that that's what's going to happen. Whether that happens or not, I don't know. But I think it's much more likely that the Lakers get moving this summer than it's quiet. I think it's much more likely that a lot happens for the Lakers than it doesn't. Okay, I got some NBA news I want to start with. Before I do so, let's give a shout out to another one of our partners, Harrah Resort SoCal. They're located anywhere you are in Southern California, between an hour and 2 hours of wherever you are in SoCal. Beautiful area of San Diego, North San Diego and the Palomar Mountains. A lot of times we go to the website and you start looking at the rooms and you see the Palomar Mountains in the background. Here's the one thing that I'll mention here. The only thing that I want to emphasize, if you feel like you need to get away for a couple of days, you're looking for a staycation, but you also want to be smart. You want to be financially, you just want to make smart decisions with your finances. Don't get on a plane and try to go fly round trip somewhere and you're paying $200-$300 each way to get somewhere. And the next thing you know, you got to leave your car at the airport. It's just a lot of work. Why do all that when you could just get out to Harrah Resort SoCal? You could hop in your car. They got over 1,000 luxurious rooms. They got great restaurants like Hell's Kitchen, which is Gordon Ramsay's restaurant. They got Rita's Cantina, which is phenomenal Mexican food that overlooks the pool. They got the Rincon Brewery for those that love beer. Rincon Brewery, phenomenal. I cracked open a Mexican lager during one of our post-game shows. So I say all that because I do think it's a great option for those that are trying to be smart. Take the family out, take the girl out, take your partner out, whatever the case is. And we are also offering 20% off when you book through us. In the description of this video, there's a link there to get 20% off when you book. Listen, if you got any interest in going to Harrah, make sure you use that link. Take advantage of it. It's a great way, obviously, to take advantage of a discount. Restrictions do apply. Most of those offers are during the week, but I'd rather go during the week because it's less busy and you get the place to yourself anyway. So, again, Harrah Resort SoCal, phenomenal partner. Click on that link in the description of the video to get 20% off. I appreciate you guys supporting our partners. All right, let's keep rolling here. Man, I thought this was going to be a calm week. Got a lot going on. All right, I know there's a lot of comments here. I'm going to try to get to some of the comments here in just a second. Before I do so, let's kind of start a little bit of our NBA news, and then I'll close out the show reading some of the comments. I appreciate all the support to the channel. Please subscribe to the channel if you guys don't mind. Consider being a member too. $3 a month. Great way to support the channel. I got a member show coming up on Friday. Kendrick Perkins. Oh, Perk. I don't know. I got a kind of Perk sometimes. So I don't know what the hell he's talking about. Other times, he might make a good point every once in a while, but for the most part, I don't know. I got my own opinion on Perk. What does he care? The guy's probably making millions sitting on ESPN. He doesn't give a rat's ass about my opinion. Perk said something yesterday. He's talking about life without LeBron James. He says, is the NBA ready for life after LeBron? Hell no, they're not. Let me say this. He's talking to Brian Windhorst. You brought up a point about going to the NBA Finals and winning championships. That's only a small percentage of what LeBron James has done for the NBA as far as carrying the torch and wearing the cape for over 2 decades of being the face of the league. Basically, he goes into trying to make a point that we better be rooting for LeBron to stay within the NBA for as long as possible, because what's the NBA going to do after LeBron James? Can I tell you something? The NBA will be fine. LeBron's already given you 23 years. There's people that are fans of the NBA that don't know a life without LeBron James in the league. The guy has carried the torch for a long time. He was doing it, by the way, when he was still in high school, and ESPN was carrying his games before he was drafted by the Cavaliers. And we all know the hype. For those that are old enough to remember his first game in the NBA, Cavs and the Sacramento Kings in Sacramento. The league will be fine. Will it take some time to adjust? Sure. Will another player kind of jump into the mold and take some of those reins? Maybe they're never going to be LeBron James. That's okay. There's plenty players in this league that can take that torch. And it's like saying that, well, the NBA can't continue without Michael Jordan. It did. The NFL can't continue without Tom Brady. It did. Major League Baseball can't continue without Barry Bonds and Mark McGwire. I'm just using Sammy Sosa. I'm using examples of, when they were all roided up hitting home runs. Allegedly. I don't know. Is it even allegedly? I don't think it is. The NBA will be fine. I, for one, look forward to that time when we could start focusing on some of the other players in the league, and some of these other topics can be a little bit more fresh, and it's not just the same LeBron James stories. The league will be fine. Let's put it that way. So Perk was talking a little bit about LeBron in regards to that. Other NBA story I want to get into here real quick. Does everybody, I'm trying to follow this Kevin Durant latest burner account scandal. I read this whole story. Yahoo Sports did a whole story on, is Kevin Durant, is he going after some of his teammates on this burner account? Guys, I don't know how to take some of this stuff. I know KD's got burner accounts. I know KD loves being on Twitter, on X, whatever the case is, on social platforms. I know he loves running some of his mouth, or loves running his mouth. But do I know that KD is actually the one behind going at his teammates, Şengün? Who else did he go after? He's gone after a couple different players, and how am I supposed to know? It's like I need a investigative journalist, and I need a team of people from the FBI to try to figure out whether there's KD or not. I don't know, guys. I don't know. Everybody's assuming this account, Get Higher 77, is Kevin Durant. Goes after Alfred Şengün, goes after Jabari Smith, goes after Russ. Is it him? I don't know. I just don't know. I really don't. Makes for a fun conversation. I mean, is there a way to prove it's him? I'm in if it's him. There's just no, like this one here. There's no confirmation. So we'll see what happens. Listen, I don't know. But it makes for a kind of a fun story and a funny story, if I'm being honest with you, in regards to that. All right, let me get a couple of comments here, and then we're going to call it a day. People are pretty funny. Some of these I won't highlight, but some people are pretty funny. Multiple sources confirmed it's KD's burner. He interacts with fans on X. I mean, if you got a burner account, can I just give KD just a quick piece of advice? If you got a burner account, can you not go so direct at some of your own teammates? Can you wait till you're not on that team? I mean, Jesus. Probably got the coaching staff in there saying, what the hell is this guy doing? Let's get another one here. Perk was right. Yes, the league will survive, but that's not the point. LeBron has 20 plus years without a scandal. Yeah, but we're making it sound like that's it. The NBA won't go on without LeBron James. It's going to go on. It will be fine. I mean, the guy is an unbelievable player, will go down as one of the greatest players to ever play the game. The league survived after Larry Bird and Magic Johnson and Michael Jordan and, and Kobe Bryant and Shaq and Hakeem Olajuwon. They'll be fine. The league will be fine. Maybe there's less talked about. Maybe there's less, from that perspective, but Slee, read the KD files. You might be right on that one. Damn, KD going after everybody. All right, great stuff today, guys. Great stuff. Okay, so let me just kind of say this. In the past, I have typically taken some time off during the All-Star week. So my plan is tomorrow, no show. I'm only going to take one day off. So I'm gonna no show tomorrow. But we will come back on Thursday. Got a good rest of the week planned as well. Geeter's going to join the show. Chris McGee of Spectrum Sportsnet. He's going to join the show coming up on Thursday. And then Adam Oslin, who does the pregame show and the postgame show of the Clippers, he'll come on Friday, helping us preview the Lakers and the Clippers coming up on Friday. So no show tomorrow is the plan. Member show coming up on Friday. Chris McGee coming up on Thursday. Adam Oslin coming up on Friday. So we got a packed show the rest of the week, but no show tomorrow. We're going to take a day off tomorrow and just kind of let a little bit this all-star break kick in. Then we'll get ready for the final half of the season. Thank you very much for being here. I appreciate you guys being a part of the show. Shout out to Mark Medina, phenomenal guest. Thank you to all our listeners as well. All the great comments that are on here as well. A lot of good comments today, so thank you for that. And shout out to Brad Wallace and the Wallace firm, Harris Resort SoCal, a couple of our partners. Hope you guys have a great rest of your Tuesday. Enjoy tomorrow as well. I'll be back Thursday morning at 8 a.m. Have a great rest of your day, and I will see you on Thursday morning. Thank you, everybody.